Good day, everyone. My name is Jason Calarian, and I am here to report about the Institutional Based Correction Module 3. At the end of this discussion, the students may be able to know the institutional agencies in the Philippines, to know the Code of Kalantiaw, the 8 major prisons here in the Philippines, the Bilibid Prison, San Ramon Prison and Penal Farm, Iwahig Penal Colony, Correctional Institute for Women, New Bilibid Prison, Davao Penal Colony, Sablayan Penal Farm, Leyte Regional Prison, and Cebu Provincial Detention and Rehabilitation Center. And lastly, Public Attorney's Office or PAO. Institutional Agency of the Philippines. The concise history of the Bureau of Correction. Corrections in the Philippines started during the pre-colonial times. It was, however, organized on the individual community basis. It was only during the Spanish regime when an organized corrective service was made operational. So nag-start na day ang kini nga corrections no sa Philippines katopang sinuunang panahon sa pre-colonial times. Wala pa tong mga Spanish regime ug uban pa. When the Americans took over in the 1900s, the Bureau of Prisons was created under the Reorganization Act of 1905. So pag-abot sa mga Americans, nagtukod yung giusab din nagtukod sila og institution niya ipangalan kay Bureau of Prison. The main penitentiary was the Old Bilibid Prison in Oroquita Street, Manila, which was established in 1847 pursuant to Section 1708 of the Revised Administrative Code. It was formally opened by a royal decree in 1865. So sa Maynila, dito ang gi-open ang main penitentiary which is the Old Bilibid Prison pag 1847. About 4 years later, on August 21, 1869, the San Ramon Prison and Penal Farm in Zamboanga City was established to confine Muslim rebels and recalcitrant political prisoners opposed to the Spanish rule. The facility, which faces Hulu Sea, has the Spanish-inspired dormitories and originally sit on 1,414 hectares sprawling state. So, pagumans pag-establish sa Old Bilibid Prison, about 4 years, kay gitukod ang San Ramon Prison ang Penal Farm sa Zamboanga City pag August 21, 1869. So ang purpose ani ngano siyang gitukod kay para didto i-confine, didto pastay ang mga Muslim nga rebelde o kining mga political prisoners nga ni against sa Spanish rule. So panahon ni sa mga Spaniards o Spanish colonial. So ang katong mga wala ni tuman sa mga mando sa mga Spanish kay presohon sila sa San Ramon Prison. When the Americans took over in the 1900s, the Bureau of Prison was created under the Reorganization Act of 1905 as an agency under the Department of Commerce and Police, and also paved the way the establishment of the San Ramon Prison in 1907, which was destroyed during the Spanish-American War. On January 1, 1915, the San Ramon Prison was placed under the auspices of the Bureau of prisons and started receiving prisoners from Mindanao. Through were transported through rail tracks, a mode which Americans introduced to prison. So, pag January 1, kay nag-receive na ang San Ramon Prison o mga prisoners nga gikan sa Mindanao. Then, ang paggamit sa transport sa mga prisoners kay ang rail tracks. Like ani nasa lalong nga picture. Before the reconstruction of San Ramon Prison, the Americans established in 1904 the Inuit Penal Settlement, now nga gitawag og Iwahig Prison and Penal Farm, on a vast reservation of 28,072 hectares. It would reach an aggregate total land area of 40,000 hectares in the late 1950s. So before kay naguba man ang San Ramon Prison tungod tong sa war, kay before pa na-reconstruct ang San Ramon Prison is nagtukod ang mga Americans og bag-o nga penal settlement mo ni gitawag og Iwahig Prison and Penal Farm. It was located on the westernmost part of the archipelago and far from the main town to confine incorrigibles who the government had found little hope of rehabilitation. The area was expanded to 41,007 hectares by virtue of Executive Order Number 67, issued by Governor Newton Gilbert on October 15, 1912. Other penal colonies were established during the American regime. On November 27, 1929, the Correctional Institution for Women (CIW) was created under Act Number 3579, while Davao Penal Colony in southern Mindanao was opened in 1932 under Act Number 3732. The CIW was founded to provide separate facilities for women offenders and to cater to their gender difference. To date, it is the lone women's prison in the country. So, paghuman sa Iwahig Prison o reconstruction pud sa San Ramon Prison, kay ang mga Americans nag-establish og correctional facilities para sa mga babayi. Muni gitawag og Correctional Institution for Women. Kini gitukod pag November 27, 1929. Owing to the increasing number of committals to the old Bilibid Prison in Manila, the new Bilibid Prison was established in 1935 in a southern suburb of Muntinlupa, Rizal. The old prison was transformed into a receiving center and as a storage facility for farm produce coming from colonies. It is presently abandoned and under the jurisdiction of the Public States Authority. After the American regime, two more penal institutions were established. These were Sablayan Prison and Penal Farm in Occidental Mindoro under Proclamation Number 72 issued on September 26, 1954, and Leyte Regional Prison under Proclamation Number 1101 issued on January 16, 1973. So after sa American regime, nagtukod og duha ka penal institution. So unsa man ni ang gitukod kay ang Sablayan Prison and Penal Farm nga makit-an sa Occidental Mindoro. Ug ang usa is the Leyte Regional Prison. The Bureau of Prisons was renamed Bureau of Correction under the new Administrative Code of 1987 issued on November 23, 1987 and Proclamation Number 495 of the President. It is one of the attached agencies under the supervision and control to the Department of Justice. So, sa una tong mga Americans kay nagbuhat sila og institution o ang mga bureau nga gipangalan kay ang Bureau of Prisons. So pag human sa American regime kay gi-rename gilisdan og Bureau of Corrections. So mo na gamit nga pangalan ron hangtod karon. So proceed ta sa Code of Kalantiaw. Code of Kalantiaw, the Code of Raha Kalantiaw was supposed legal code in the epic history Maragtas that is said to have been written in 1433 by Datu Kalantiaw, a chief on the island of Negros in the Philippines. Datu bin Dihara Kalantiaw, third chief of Panay born in Aklan, established a government in the peninsula of Batang Aklan Sakop, considered the first Filipino lawgiver. He promulgated about 1433 a penal code now known as Code of Kalantiaw, containing 18 articles. Chief among these was the Code of Kalantiaw, which listed 18 orders for the proper punishment of certain moral and social transgression. Depending on the gravity of the offense, punishment ranged from the light fine to being cut to pieces and thrown to crocodiles. So, ang mga imong punish gibugaton sa imong sala is nagadepende pod sa gibugaton sa punishment. So, ang punishment nila is sunugon ka or putlon imong mga kalawasan o ilabay sa mga ipakaon sa crocodiles. So, mo ni ang Article 1 sa Code of Kalantiaw. You shall not kill, neither shall you steal, neither shall you do harm to the aged, lest you incur the danger of death. All those who infringe in this order shall be condemned to death by being drowned in the river or in a boiling water. So, bawal ka mupatay, then bawal ka mangawat, di ka pwede manghilabot sa mga age o mga gulang. So, if dili mo ni ma-obey, so ang punishment is ilunod ka sa tubig, ilunod ka sa sapa, or ilunod ka sa pabukalang tubig. Article 2. You shall obey, let all your debts with the headman be met punctually. He who does not obey shall receive for the first time of the 100 lashes, and debt is large, he shall be condemned to thrust his hand in the boiling water thrice. For the second time, he shall be beaten to death. So, kung nakay utang, kailangan nimo magkuan din mo unya, kailangan ka magbayad. So, kung di ka kabayad, nakay 100 ka lashes, so bunalan kag ng mga latigo. If dako ang utang, so he shall be put his hand sa pinabukalang tubig. O kung mao gyapon, kundi kaduaan do it for second time, he shall be beaten to death. So patyon siya. Article 3. Obey you, let no one have women that are very young, nor more than he can support, nor be given the excessive lust. He who does not comply with, obey, and observe this order shall be condemned to swim for 3 hours and for the second time to be beaten death with the sharp thorns. So, Article number 4. Observe and obey, let no one disturb the quiet of the graves. When passing by caves and trees where they are, give respect to them. He who does not observe this shall be killed by ants or beaten to death with thorns. So, observe o respect sa mga graves kung muagi, then di ka magsaba-saba, then while muagi sa mga caves o sa mga dagkong kahoy, kung diin sila gilubong, respect them. If imo ni di ka, kung ni disobey ka ni, is imong punishment kay patyon ka pinaagi sa paakon ka sa mga ants og butngan og mga thorns. Article 5, you shall obey he who exchanges for food. Let it be always done in accordance with his word. He who does not comply, he shall be beaten for 1 hour, or repeats the offense shall be exposed for 1 day among ants. So, pareha Japon, ang kaning punishment is papakon sa mga ants. Article number 6, you shall be obliged to revere sites that are held in respect, such as those of trees of recognized worth and other sites. He who fails to comply shall pay in 1 month's work in gold or in honey. So, you should give respect sa mga nature, labi na sa mga trees. So, di nimo sila sunugon or putlon kung labi na tong mga dagko nga kahoy. Kung if you fail to comply, so makabayad kag 1 month's work in gold and or in honey. Article 7, this shall be put to death. He who kills trees of venerable appearance, who shoot arrows at night at old men and women, he who enters the house of the headman without permission, he who kills a shark or a strict cayman. So, patay ay death ang parusa kung ikaw kay naglabag sa law sa kalantyaw sa pagpatay sa mga shark o sa mga crocodile like kaning cayman, o makikit-an ka nga nisud kas balay sa headman nga without permission, o pagputol sa mga kahoy nga venerable appearance, o pag shoot arrows sa mga old men and women. Slavery for a dome. A certain period of time shall be suffered by those who steal away the woman of the headman, by him who keep ill-tempered dogs that bite the headman, by him who burns the fields of another. So, ang imong punishment ani is slavery. Kung ikaw kay na imong gistil ang babae sa headman, kung masakpan ka nga imong gistil ang babae sa headman, o kuan, o makit-an nga nagsunog ka sa field. The Article 9, all this shall be beaten for 2 days, who sing while traveling by night, kill the manaol, tear the documents belonging the headman, are malicious liar who mock the dead. So bukbukon ka or kanang harsh punishment for 2 days kung masakpan ka nagkanta-kanta ini kagabi o paggisi sa mga documents belong to the headman o pagpatay sa manaol. Article 10, it is decreed an obligation that every mother teach secretly to her daughters matters pertaining to lust and prepare them for womanhood. Let not men be cruel or punish their women when they catch them in act of adultery. Whoever shall disobey shall be killed by being cut to pieces and thrown to the caimans. So, kini nga article is obligasyon sa mga ginikanan nga ilang i-orient ang ilang mga anak or have a proper upbringing, labi na kung padong na sila sa pag-prepare for womanhood, kanang padong na maminyo. Kung kung wa nila ni gi-obey, he shall be killed, or the the parents will be killed by being cut into pieces. So chap-chapon ka, then ilabay sa mga caimans or crocodiles. Article 11, these shall be born who by restraint or cunning have mocked at escape punishment, or who have killed young boys, or tried to steal away the women of the elders. So sunugon, dauban ka kung kuan kanang mangilog kag babaye sa mga elders. Article number 12. These shall be drawn all who interfere with their superiors, or their owners or masters, all those who abuse themselves through their lust, those who destroy their anitos by breaking them or throwing them down. O kini kung imong labi na sa imong mga anitos or sa mga kining mga statue, mga rebulto, imo silang gibuak or gilabay, Spanishan ka to ilunod ka sa river. Article number 13. All these shall be exposed to ants for half day, who kill black cats during a new moon, or steal anything from the chiefs or agorangs, however small the object may be. So papaakan ka sa mga ants for half day kung ikaw nakapatay og black cats during the new moon, og pagpangawat sigunsa sa gikan sa imong chiefs or headmans. Article number 14. They shall be made slave for life, who have beautiful daughters and deny them to the sons of chiefs, and a bad fate hide them away. Article number 15. Concerning beliefs and superstitions, they shall be beaten, who eat the deceased flesh of beasts which they hold in respect, or the herb they consider good, who wound or kill the young of the manaol or the white monkey. Article number 16. The fingers shall be cut off all of those who break idols of wood and clay in their alangans and temples, of those who destroy daggers of the Tagalons or break the drinking jars of the latter. So, kung imong giguba ang mga statua o mga rebulto sa inyong temple or gipambuak nimo ang mga jars, is ang punishment kay putlon ang imong mga fingers, like this in nasa picture. Article number 17. This shall be killed, who profane sites where idols are kept, and sites where are buried and sacred things to their diwatas and headmen. He who perform his necessities in those places shall be burned. So ang punishment ani niya is dauban ka sunugon. Article number 18. Those who do not cause these rules to be obeyed, if they are headmen, they shall be put to death by being stoned and crushed. And if they are agorangs, they shall be placed in rivers to be eaten by sharks and caimans. So, kung kaning mga rules kay wala gi-obey, sila kay ipakaon sa mga sharks and caimans. Caimans kay mao ni sila ang mga crocodiles. So, proceed ta sa 8th Institutional Correction of the Philippines. New Bilibid Prison, Ramon Prison and Penal Farm, Iwaig Penal Colony, Correctional Institution for Women, Davao Penal Colony, Sablayan Prison and Penal Colony, Leyte Regional Prison, Cebu Provincial Detention and Rehabilitation Center, So mao na mga 8 institutional correction. First is the New Bilibid Prison. The New Bilibid Prison, or NBP, in Muntinlupa, Metro Manila is the main insular penitentiary designed to house the prison population of the Philippines. It is maintained by the Bureau of Correction, or BUCOR, under the Department of Justice. As of May 2018, the NBP housed 26,877 convicted criminals. So, mao ni ang New Bilibid Prison. Gitukod ni sa Muntinlupa, Metro Manila. Mao ni as the main insular penitentiary sa Pilipinas. So, ang gadalaan nino sa mga jail, ang nagdalam jud kay mga BUCOR or the Bureau of Corrections. Dayon ang kuan members ay ang mga pila ka book inmates ang nasa sulod is daghan kayo. So na overcrowded sila diri pod. So ang total is 26,877. In 1940, prisoners were transferred into the NBP from the old Bilibid prison, also known as Cárcel y Presidio Correccional, Spanish for correctional jail and military prison in Manila. The remnants of the old facility was used by the city of Manila as its detention center, known today as Manila City Jail. So, sa una din panahon, ang kinaunan mo jud kay ang Old Bilibid Prison. So, gikan sa Old Bilibid Prison, tungod sa kadaghan sa mga nakadaghan ang mga piniriso, mga convicted criminals, kay gibalhin sila, gitransfer sa New Bilibid Prison, which is the New Bilibid Prison is mas dako, mas ma-occupy ang daghan nga mga prisoners. So ang katong old nga prison, like the old Bilibid Prison, is himo siya as a detention center Japan. Mao gitawag karon og Manila City Jail. The penitentiary had an initial land area of 15,551 hectares or 1,360 acres, but 104 hectares to 60 acres were transferred to a housing project of Department of Justice. Additional land to the NBP reservation is used for the Bureau of Corrections headquarters. During Japanese occupation of the Philippines during World War II, Bilibid was a prisoner of war and civilian internee camp where American soldiers or civilians were held by the Japanese. 1,200 internees and POWs, meaning prisoners of wars, were freed by the American Army on February 14, 1945 during the Battle of Manila. So, pag Japanese occupation kay gipriso ang mga prisoner of war and civilian internee sa American soldier. So, then pag after the war is the 1,200 internees and prisoners of wars kay gibuhian ra pod sa mga American Army sa pag February 4, 1945. The government of the Philippines plans to create a regional prison in Nueva Ecija through a public-private partnership. The old Bilibid prison, then known as the Cárcel y Presidio Correccional, occupied a rectangular piece of land that was part of the Mayhalik Estate in the heart of Manila. So, ang old prison kay na-established by the Spanish colonial government on June 25, 1865 via royal decree. It is divided into two sections. Ang old Bilibid prison was established by Spanish colonial government on June 25. So ang old Bilibid prison is divided into two sections. So what is this? The Cárcel and the Presidio. The Cárcel, which could accommodate 600 inmates, and the Presidio, which could hold 527 prisoners. San Ramon Prison and Penal Farm. According to historical accounts, the San Ramon Prison was established in southern Zamboanga on August 21, 1870 through a royal decree promulgated in 1869. So, paguman sa kuan, yung Old Bilibid Prison is gitukod ang Ramon Prison sa Zamboanga, southern Zamboanga. Established during the tenure of Governor General Ramon Blanco. So, ang nagpatukod ani kay ang governor, si Governor General Ramon Blanco. Nga maoy kani si Governor Blanco maoy gipangalan sa prison, mo ni tawag San Ramon Prison. So diya na nagikan ang pangalan. The facility was originally established for persons convicted of political crimes. Considered the oldest penal facility in the country, prisoners in San Ramon were required to do agricultural work. So ang mga prisoners dire ang ilahang kayunik sa uban nga facility kay sila nagkandak sila og agricultural work. So ang mga prisoner kay muadto sila sa mga bukid or sa mga palayan para mag ani kana mag magtanom, no, mananom og mga mais, mga mga rice, no, mga og napo ni sila fishing kana mangisda. During the Spanish-American War in 1898, the prisoners in San Ramon were hastily released and the buildings destroyed. So pag 1898 American War, ang San Ramon Prison kay naguba tungod sa dako nga war. In 1907, the American administration re-established the prison farm. So pag 1907 pag human sa kining American War kay ilang gitukod og balik ang prison farm kay naguba man to pag 1907. After several years, the colony became practically self-supporting with 75,000 coconut trees which were planted at the beginning of Pershing administration, contributing to the colony's self-sufficiency. Aside from coconuts, rice, corn, papaya, and other crops were also cultivated. So, para makakuha sila og mga budget or mga pang-finance or para makuan sila og budget para sa presuhan kay nagtanom ang mga prisoners. So kini sa pagpananom kay lead by Pershing administration. So tungod ni Pershing kay nagsugod na og pananom ang mga prisoners like planting coconut trees and planting rice, corn, and papaya and other crops. On November 1, 1905, Reorganization Act No. 1407 was approved, creating the Bureau of Prisons under the Department of Commerce and Police, integrating the Old Bilibid Prison, San Ramon Penal Colony, and Iwahig Penal. The Philippine Coconut Authority took over management of the coconut farm from the San Ramon. So tungod sa kadagan nga farm, kadagan sa mga gipangtanom, no, sa mga lubi sa San Ramon, which is 75,000 coconut trees. So the Philippine Coconut Authority mo'y nagmanage sa coconut sa San Ramon Prison. In 1995, Congresswoman Maria Clara Lobregat proposed the transfer of San Ramon Prison to Bonggao Town in the mountainous area of Zamboanga to give way to a special economic zone. So, ang first woman mayor sa Zamboanga nga si Congresswoman Maria Clara Lobregat kay nag-propose, no, pag lingkod niya as a congresswoman, nag-propose din siya nga ang San Ramon Prison kay i-transfer sa mga bukid-bukid sa Bonggao Town. Ano, kay para dool sila og mga dali sila makatanom. dagang matubo nga mga crops kung ibutang sila sa bukid. So dito nanom ang mga prisoners. This facility was established during the American occupation. So the Iwahig Penal Colony was, however, during the Spanish regime, that Puerto Princesa was designated as a place where offenders sentenced to banishment were exiled. So ang mga offenders nga gikan sa Manila, then mga grabe na mga kailangan sila i-exile is ibutang sila sa Puerto Princesa sa western part of the Philippines. So mao ni ang Palawan, the Iwahig Penal Colony. A specific area of Puerto Princesa was selected as the site for a correctional facility. The American military carved out a prison facility in the rainforest of Puerto Princesa. So naghimo og correctional facility ang mga American military sa rainforest sa mga kahoyan sa Puerto Princesa. The institution had for its first superintendent Lieutenant George Wolfe, a member of the U.S. Expeditionary Force, who later became the first prison director. So, ang prison director sa Iwahig Penal Farm kay si Superintendent Lieutenant George Wolfe. Governor Locke Wright authorized the establishment of a penal colony in the province of Palawan on November 16, 1904. The penal settlement, which originally comprised an area of 22 acres, originally served as the depository for prisoners who could not be accommodated at Bilibid Prison in Manila. In 1906, however, the Department of Commerce and Police moved to turn the institution into the center of a penal colony supervised in accordance with the trends at that time. Through the department's efforts, the Philippine Commission of the United States government passed Act No. 1723 in 1907 classifying the settlement as a penal institution. The settlement was at first beset by attempted escapes, but under the supervision of Colonel John R. White of the Philippine Constabulary, who would become superintendent of Iwahig in 1906, the colony became the successful settlement. So ang unang settlement kay sa penal institution is daghang kay mga nakatakas. So not until nga nag-supervise si Colonel John R. White sa Philippine Constabulary, siya ang nag-supervise sa Iwahig Penal Farm. Sukad ato is wala na ang mga escapes, wala na yung mga takas-takas. A merit system was devised for the prisoners and vocational activities were offered. These included the farming, fishing, forestry, carpentry, and hospital paramedical work. Prisoner would choose the vocational activities they wanted. So sa Iwahig Penal Farm kay napud sila agricultural work like merit system, ila tawag is merit system kung ang prisoners para sa mga prisoners nga nagbuhat og mga vocational activities nga gi-offer like farming, fishing, forestry, carpentry, and paramedical work. August 16, 1959, a committee was created by President Carlos P. Garcia to study a state of national prisons. Accordingly, prisoners in Iwahig were divided into two groups, the settlers and the colonies. So, ang prisoners sa Iwahig kay gi-divide into two groups, the settlers and the colonies. Settlers are those engaged in farming for their own benefit. They are the ones who applications for land to cultivate have been approved. So kani mga farmers, mga mananumay, muna gitawag sila og mga settlers. Upon the release from the colony, they receive whatever amount of money they have accredited in their favor. after deducting the obligations they have. So ini makabuhi sila is makadawat sila og amount of money. Iwahig is subdivided into 4 zones or districts. So unang zone is ang central sub-colony with an area of 14,700 hectares. Next is the Santa Lucia with 9,685 hectares. Next is the Montebol with 8,000 hectares and Inagawan with 13,000 hectares. So mas dako kinadak-an ning Inagawa ay kinadak-an ning Central Sub-Colony. So mao ni ang Central Sub-Colony with an area of 14,700 hectares. Next is the Santa Lucia with 9,685 hectares. Next is the Montebol with 8,000 hectares. Last is the Inagawan with 13,000 hectares. Correctional Institution for Women or CIW. On February 14, 1931, the women prisoners were transferred from the old Bilibid prison to a building specially constructed for them. Its old name, Women's Prison, and was changed to Correctional Institution for Women. So, kani mga babae nga prisoners kay gikan ni sila sa old Bilibid prison. Then naghimo ang ang Pilipinas naghimo og correctional institution nga para pod sa mga babae. So dito sila gitransfer. This was in keeping with emerging trends in penology, which emphasized correction rather than punishment. Convicts were brought back into the social mainstream, adjusted and rehabilitated with a better outlook in life. CIW, according to a Senate report, occupied 18 hectares. The original structure was a one-story building which housed the office, the brigades, mess hall, kitchen, chapel, infirmary, bathrooms, and employees' restrooms. The building has a central courtyard with trees and flowering plants. The prisoners' vocational activities were expanded to include poultry and piggery, as well as cultivation of crops, flowers, and fruits. Living quarters for the institution employees were later constructed in the compound. So, ang ginabuhat pod sa mga piniriso nga babae dere kay parehas pod sa ubang prison nga mananom. Mananom, magpiggery, magpoultry, mananom og mga crops, mga flowers and fruits. During the Japanese occupation, the CIW, despite a drastic reduction in the number of its employees, continued with its work. A number of female military prisoners were also confined in the institution. They were later freed by U.S. Army. In 2000, a new 4-story building was constructed by the Department of Public Works within the grounds of CIW. It is the growing congestion in the facility. The CIW, with a capacity for only 200 inmates, had to accommodate 1,000 inmates. So, pag 2,000 kay nagtukod og 4-story building ang Department of Public Works para sa CIW. Next is Davao Penal Colony. The Davao Penal Colony is the first penal settlement founded and organized under Filipino administration. The settlement, which originally had an area of approximately 30,000 hectares in the districts of Panabu and Tagum, Davao del Norte. So, mao ni ang after sa CIW is naggitukod ang Davao Penal Colony. So, ang naghimo ani is under the administration of the Filipinos. So, mga Pinoy na, di na mga Americans o mga Spaniards. Then, as the original area of 30,000 hectares, so dako-dako sa mi siya. Kini kay gitukod sa Davao del Norte. It was formally established on January 21 by virtue of Act Number 3732. This act authorized the Governor General to lease and or sell the lands, buildings, and improvements in San Ramon Prison and Iwahay Penal Colony. It is also granted authority to the Secretariat of Justice to establish a new prison and penal colony in suitable public land. A budget of 500,000 was allocated. Several committees were created to pick a suitable site for the penal settlement. So, ang Secretary of Justice kay nagbuhat sila og bag-o nga prison. So, ang budget sa una is 500. So, kaning 500,000 sa una is dako na kinistanan. In accordance with the recommendation of these committees, Governor Dwight Davis signed Proclamation Number 414 on October 7, 1931, which reserved a site for the penal colony in Davao Province in Mindanao. The site offered ideal conditions for agricultural activities. So sa Davao Penal Colony kay napud sila agricultural activities nga gipangunahan ni Governor Dwight Davis nga iyang gisign para mag-reserve og site para sa agricultural activities. During World War II, the colony was converted into a concentration camp where more than 1,000 Japanese internees were committed by the Philippine-American Armed Forces. The Japanese were treated in accordance with the orders in the American commanding officer. On December 20, 1941, the Japanese Imperial Forces attacked Davao, and the colony was among the establishments taken over by the invading army. The entire settlement was thrown into confusion and a great number of prisoners escaped. So pag December 20, 1941 kay ang Davao Penal Colony ay ang Davao kay gi-attack sa mga Japanese, so Japanese Imperial Forces. So of course the Davao prison is naamong, so nangaguba, then na kuan mo'y hinungdan nganong daghang kay mga prisoners nga sulod sa Davao Penal Colony ang naka-escape. After the liberation of the Philippines, the colony in exile in Palawan returned to its old site in Davao. A great deal of rebuilding and repair had to be done because of war had almost completely destroyed the colony. So, after sa liberation of the Philippines, ang Davao kay re-establish sila sa mga building kanang tungod sa kuan pagguba tungod sa war. Next is the Sablayan Prison and Penal Farm. The Sablayan Penal Colony is located in Occidental Mindoro and relatively new. Established on September 26, 1954 by virtue of Presidential Proclamation Number 72, the penal colony has a total land area of approximately 16,190 hectares. Ang Sablayan Prison and Penal Farm kay naay 3 sub-colonies with later disorganized. One is the reservation which this day remains part of the protected rainforest. Another is a coastal area. Una is the rainforest, sunod kay sa coastal area, and the third was the national government as the relocation site for refugees from the eruption of Mount Pinatubo eruption in 1991. Sablayan Prison is a facility where prisoners from NBP are brought for decongestion purposes. It follows same colony standard as other penal farms. So from New Bilibid Prison, dadon sila sa Sablayan Prison. Just like gikan sa pareha sa Iwahig kay just like sa Iwahig kay ang ubang prisoners kay gikan sa Old Bilibid Prison din gitransfer sa Iwahig Prison. Leyte Regional Prison. The Leyte Regional Prison situated in Abuyog, Southern Leyte was established a year after the declaration of martial law in 1972 by virtue of Presidential Decree Number 28. So pag human sa martial law in 1972 kay gitukod ang Leyte Regional Prison. While its plantilla and institutional plan were almost ideal, lack of funds made the prison unable to realize its full potential and its facilities are often below par compared with those of other establishment of penal farms. So, pagtukod aning sa Leyte Regional Prison is wala sila ga-expect nga dako daay nga fund ang ilang dapat nga kuan nga i-budget. So tungod ana is insufficient ang ilahang mga funds. So the regional prison has an inmate capacity of 500. It follows the same agricultural format as the main correctional program. In addition to same rehabilitation activities, the prison admits convicted offenders from Regional 6 and from the National Penitentiary in Muntinlupa. Next is the Cebu Provincial Detention and Rehabilitation Center, also known as the CPDRC. Dancing Inmates of the is the collective of prison inmates in Cebu Provincial Detention and Rehabilitation Center. So, ang mga preso, mga piniriso diri kay ang ilahang ang ilaha ang kinali ang nagkalahian sa uban nga prison is ang mga prisoner diri kay na manayaw, no, mga dancers located in 173 Maria Cristina Extension Street, Cebu City, Cebu. The Cebu Provincial Detention and Rehabilitation Center is a jail facility in Cebu. In Cebu Province, Philippines, it is a maximum security facility with a capacity of for 1,600 inmates. So, daghan sab sila dire. It is a maximum security prison in Cebu where the prisoners perform dance routines as part of their daily exercise and rehabilitation, and many of their performances are filmed and released online, making them a popular feature among fans and veritable online celebrities. So, kining mga prison kay gifilm na pud ni sila sa una og ni-apply na pud ni sila og ni-apply ni sila sa mga contest. So, ayun lang sayaw kay nag-trend sa internet. Ang gipanguluhan ni Byron F. Garcia, the official security advisor to the Cebu government, is credited to the starting a program of choreographed exercise routines for the inmates. He was appointed head of the prison by his sister Gwendolyn Garcia, the governor of Cebu, in 2006. He began uploading videos of the dance performances. Its best known video was a rendition of Michael Jackson's Thriller. So, ang siugdaan ni nga magsaya ang mga inmates is Byron F. Garcia. So, siya mo'y nagmando ani nga mao ni buhaton mo ni as a part of their exercise routine sa mga inmates. So, nagkuan ang unan nga ni boom or ni viral sa ilang video sa internet which is nagsayaw sila og Thriller ni Michael Jackson. Byron Garcia had originally wanted to introduce a program at Cebu Provincial Detention and Rehabilitation Center where inmates would exercise for an hour each day. He also claims in a British documentary that his inspiration came while watching the movie The Shawshank Redemption, in particular the scene where the sounds of Mozart flood the prison yard. So, na-inspire si Byron Garcia sa sa salida nga rasyon siyang redemption. So tungod ani mura siya na-inspired nga sa CPDRC prison kay iya sa suhiron tong magsayang mga inmates. Garcia initially introduced an exercise program where the prisoners march in unison, starting out with marching to beat the drum, but moved on to dancing to pop music. He began with one of his favorite songs, Pink Floyd's Another Brick in the Wall. He chose camp music such as In the Navy and the YMCA by the Village People, so macho prisoners would not be offended at being asked to dance. So, para po dili sila maulaw labi na katong mga macho nga mga prisoners namjo uban nga dili mosayaw kay maulaw. So nagpili sila og kanta nga panglalaki jud like in the Navy and the YMCA. Garcia's first upload of prisoner choreography was the Algorithm March with 967 inmates but only generated 400 views in its first 8 months. The next upload, Thriller, however, enjoyed a massive response. The prison now even has its own official choreographer teachers like Vince Rosales and Gwyn Lidor. Some prisoners are chosen more prominently for more sophisticated routines, while the general prison population, sometimes up to 1,500 inmates, participate with simpler, more accessible routines. Now we'll go to the Public Attorney's Office or PAO. Is attached agency of the Department of Justice which provides indigent litigants free legal assistance. So kaning public attorney office kay naghatag sila og free legal assistance. So free ra, wa sila bayad, wa di ra sila magbayad. So ang naa ni is mga attorneys ang mutabang nimo. The PAO shall be the principal law office of the government and extending free legal assistance to indigent persons in criminal, civil, labor, administrative, and other quasi-judicial cases. So, ang powers and functions, the PAO shall independently discharge its mandate to render, free of charge, legal representation, assistance, and counseling to indigent persons in criminal, civil labor, administrative, and quasi-judicial cases. So, mo ni ang powers and functions sa PAO. So, mo ni nindot nakaayo sa program nila. Kay nabi uban mga indigent people kay di sila ka-afford og mga attorneys. So tungod sa PAW, tungod ani nga authority kinatagaw higayon ang mga indigent nga i-depend ang ilang self for free assistance, for free legal assistance. Their mission: the Public Attorney's Office exists to provide the indigent litigants, the oppressed, marginalized, and underprivileged members of the society free access to courts, judicial and quasi-judicial agencies by rendering legal services, counseling, and assistance in consonance with the constitutional mandate that free access to courts shall not be denied to any person by reason of poverty, in order to ensure the rule of law, truth, and social justice as components of the country's sustainable development. Under vision, a government agency that God-centered and dynamic bureaucracy that is responsive to the ever-growing legal needs of the indigents and oppressive, led by the highly competent, world-class, development-oriented, honest, dedicated, and nationalistic leaders and lawyers. So that's all for this today. That's all for today, and thank you, and God bless.